What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcasts. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of WARHUNT, and it has Mickey Rourke. Let's check it out. So I got this online, a trailer for this movie, and it's a World War II sort of horror movie, which is kind of got a mix of action and everything in the trailer. And I thought, hey, let's give it a try. There was some CGI and things in it that I was like, but we'll see. It seemed like some of the performances were decent enough and that it could come up with something pretty cool. Well, I finally got to see it, and WARHUNT was okay. It wasn't great. It was just kind of unique in some ways. What is WARHUNT, though? Well, WARHUNT, as I kind of mentioned, is from World War II. There's a bunch of guys on a plane in 1945 that are flying over Germany, the Black Forest, and something goes into the propellers and causes it to crash land into the forest. And a search team held by Mickey Rourke, his character in the movie, send out a team of 13 guys, unlucky for some, to find out what happened to him and get the classified material. Now, when they go out there, things start to become confusing and weird, and they start seeing and hearing things and finding dead Nazis and other things in the woods. It soon becomes apparent that not only are they trapped in this weird world, but also the Nazi soldiers who they're fighting against as well. In short, and this is very, very minor spoilers, we're essentially dealing with witches and warriors. Make sense? Set in 1945, of course. Now, this is a movie that's been directed by Mauro Borelli, who I've actually seen some of his movies before. He did The Ghostmaker, The Recall, and Haunted Forest, which is one of his first films that I was not a fan of. This is like years ago, where it was kind of biting off of that sort of J-horror, ghost horror movies, and they tried to do a Native American sort of horror in the forest story. He seems to like forests, so we know that much, but it is a step above that. He's come a long way from that movie, which was very botched sound, did not feel like atmospheric, and the acting was This is actually a step up in the right direction from that movie, and he had two other writers to help write and flesh this story out, and Mickey Rourke, as well as Robert Knepper, are both really pretty decent in this movie, specifically Robert Knepper, who does a really good job of kind of losing his shit. He's the sergeant in charge. Mickey Rourke is kind of just sort of the famous topping in here, although he does have a meteor sort of segment in this movie. I don't think we've ever seen like witches and World War II yet, and if you've been following along with the podcast, we have started our 2-week folk horror sort of podcast for 2 weeks where we watch 4 movies in the folk horror genre. And in some ways, this movie kind of fits into that folk horror, being that it is an old evil that lives in these woods, older than Germans, older than, World War II, that these people are stumbling upon, and these ancient ways are coming to sort of get them. So it's kind of interesting that this movie kind of falls into that category. It's really different what they're doing with it, and the acting and the sort of military people that are in the movie feel realistic, and it does feel like an actual military team, like they had some actual training on how things are done and how they kind of go out. There are some things in the movie that doesn't really make sense as far as the time era and some of the clothing and things that people are wearing, but that's not a big deal to me. As long as the story is engaging and interesting, it's kind of neat to see some of these guys get picked off. And in one scene in particular where they kind of all lose their minds, I thought was fantastic. There were a couple of moments in the film that I really did enjoy and kind of made the picture a better movie overall, but it still kind of falls flat in some other areas. It takes a little while to get to the goods in the beginning, but you do get to know each and every one of these soldiers so that when they do lose their life, get into a situation or whatever, it is horrific or scary or tense in some degree. This isn't the most thrilling movie I've seen, but it's interesting the way they mix these two sort of ideas into one movie where it gives sort of that action thriller. There is some gore in the movie, even though it does take a little while to get to that kind of point, sort of practical effects in that regard. So it's pretty cool. It's competently shot, and I don't know, I'm pretty impressed that it is so much different than Haunted Forest. This is a way better picture than that. So kudos, you know, for stepping up the game on that. Kind of makes me want to check out The Recall, which I do have a Blu-ray of. It's with Wesley Snipes in it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it's probably like around this area of quality, which I would say that this movie, even though it's not exactly scary and CGI where they do this like effect where it's like swirling feathers and things like that you'll see in the trailer, is a little overdone, but there are some moments and some things that they do in the film that kind of make up for that, and I really enjoyed some of those moments. But overall, I wasn't blown away by it. It just kind of breaks above average because of the concept, and I think that would be probably about a 6. There are some people that are going to score this lower, maybe even higher, but I think that's appropriate as it's a interesting enough movie that I enjoyed it from start to finish. I wasn't kind of blown away by it, but there were some moments that I enjoyed, particularly when they go mad. It really kind of made me think of Jacob's Ladder almost, which was kind of cool. But that said, this movie is available for rent. I think it's $5.99. You can get it on Amazon or any one of your digital platforms. You might find it for $1 cheaper, but I wouldn't say this is a movie that you need to rush out and see. So if you waited till it hit a streaming service, it probably wouldn't be so bad, but it's not a bad picture to watch. And I think I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting. So what did you guys think? Have you seen the trailer? Are you into movies that mix sort of war and mix this supernatural element into it? Are you not into that kind of thing? Do you like folk horror? You should follow our podcast because we got some really interesting stuff that we're talking about. It's all audio, so it's not a video, but check it out. But let me know what you guys think about this movie, and thanks so much for coming by. And as always, long live the void.